Welcome to a special Friday edition of the Inside the FLX Podcast. I'm Josh Durso, and as always, we're here in the FingerLakes1.com studio in downtown Seneca Falls. Today we are chatting with Brooke Gordon, founder of the Keuka Lake App. Founded in 2016, the app has quickly become the go-to resource for information on and around Keuka Lake. Brooke, thanks a lot for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So before we get in talking about the app itself, tell us a little bit about yourself and what sort of led you down this road.
So my name is Brooke Gordon. I am from Hammondsport, New York on Keuka Lake. I went to Syracuse University for college and studied interior design. So not really related to the app, but my dad started to realize that there needed to be an on-demand resource for information. And he came up with the idea of the app and kind of let me run with it. And that's where I am today.
So, yeah, what is the Keuka Lake App? Because I'm sure there are people who are hearing that and saying, the Keuka Lake App, what's that? Walk us through what it specifically is and how it works.
So the Keuka Lake App is an application for your smartphone, iPad, or tablet. You can download it for free by going to the App Store or the Play Store, depending on iOS or Android, and searching Keuka Lake. It really is basically like a tourist booth on your phone. You can find accountants, you can find places to eat, places to stay, wineries, breweries, real estate. You can find builders and plumbers, pretty much everything that you need to know. There's going to be something on the app to help you.
Now, you say your dad, this was an idea that kind of came from your dad, but what was sort of beyond that, what was the concept behind it? Obviously it wasn't something that had been done before. So sort of building from the ground up, what was the mindset that you had to sort of put yourself in moving through the process?
Well, the original mindset was I was really trying to focus on restaurants, places to stay, and what to do in the Finger Lakes. I wasn't totally trying to promote it just to tourists and vacationers and people visiting the area. I did want it to be useful for the local residents too. But it quickly became something that anybody could use just because of that second aspect of all the local services that all the local residents need 24/7 and all year round. If you're living here in the winter and your pipes freeze, you can go to the app and find a plumber, and you can call them to have them come out and fix it. So it ended up becoming very inclusive of everything that the Keuka Lake area has to offer. You can get turn-by-turn directions, you can call, you can look at their website, look up menus at restaurants, all that kind of stuff.
Now, as far as the reception, obviously it's a really interesting idea. I would imagine that once it started to pick up steam, it probably snowballed. But what was the initial response like from the community when you first started to, make this happen?
Yeah, so I basically started going door to door to businesses and kind of introducing it and showing it to them. I had already launched it, and that was mainly for the purpose of being able to show it and demonstrate it to them. Honestly, there's still a few people out there who don't know what an app is. Right. So it was a lot easier to actually have it and show people, this is your page, this is how your business is going to be represented on the app. I'm very thankful for the community, especially Hammondsport. They really, since I grew up there, a lot of the business owners were, very welcoming to me and the idea. And then Penn Yan also came in. So I kind of started in Hammondsport and then worked my way to Penn Yan. And both of the communities have really realized it brings the whole lake together, both ends of the spectrum. And it they're only 20 miles apart. So the Keuka Lake app is really inclusive of the entire area, all of its events. It really doesn't separate the two towns or even the towns up on the sides of the hills too.
Now, you just pointed out something that I kind of chuckle at always. There are people out there who don't know what an app is. They have no clue. Now, what is sort of over the last year and change that you've been doing this, what has been your approach for talking to those people who don't know what an app is or don't know how to get to an app or that kind of thing? Because I feel like there are a ton of people are migrating to smartphones, but there are also a lot of people who use smartphones, older people, older audience, who aren't really sure what they're doing on that smartphone. So what is your sort of approach as the person who has to teach, in a sense?
Yeah, so I've tried to make it really easy to download. links, and if you go to the website on your phone, a little banner slides down at the top, and all you literally have to do is click it, and it brings you right into the App Store, and you can install it. So that kind of, takes away having to find the App Store on your phone, having to, search for Keuka Lake, having to figure out how to get the app. It really makes it a one-stop shop to get it. The funny thing is I have business owners who have their business on the app and they don't even have a smartphone. So I think that even if there's people out there who don't have access to the app or haven't really made that transition yet, I still think that they understand the potential it has, and that's where things are going. So they still show their support in different ways. But yeah, I found that very interesting when I had a few people sign up regardless of whether they can actually use it right now.
Right. Now, seeing this grow firsthand as you have, has it sort of, I guess the question is, when was that sort of light bulb moment when you thought to yourself, you started to see some interest? When was the light bulb moment where you're like, oh, this is really going to work?
Yeah, I think it was probably just seeing the support from the community and the business owners. They were really the first people I went to, presented it to them, and just seeing them really receive it well, and that kind of support. And then also they help me promote it too, because if their business is on the app, they want people to know that that's where they can go to find their information, to get turn-by-turn directions with a click of a button. So they really helped me spread the word. And then once summer hit, it was word of mouth really just helped spread it everywhere. So that was really nice to see.
Now, as far as that goes, what is the busy season for? Now, a lot of people would probably assume that summer is the busy season because there are more events and things like that, but you aren't necessarily the busiest in the summer because you have to prep for the summer, right?
Yeah, so I guess I'm decently busy the whole year round, just because push notifications, people like to blast out what's going on at their restaurant, or when a brewery has live music, or when there's an open house for a real estate listing. So that happens all throughout the year. So that kind of is steady and keeps me busy the whole time. Also, just keeping in touch with the businesses. I like to keep them up to date. I like to talk to them about the things we're doing and how we're promoting the app. I like to kind of teach them how to use push notifications more effectively, all that kind of stuff. So there's a big learning curve for the businesses too on how to, get the most benefit from being on the app, and how I can teach them how to do that. So
now, is it something that, do you think it would be easier if you were in a less rural area? Like, do you think there is living through it, do you think there is a correlation between more rural areas having less exposure to these sort of like technological advances than more urban areas where this kind of thing might have already happened several years ago?
Yeah, so there actually are. There are apps in other cities.
Right.
Indianapolis has an app. There's apps everywhere, all over the United States, and they are mainly in bigger cities. So obviously, I think that really just helps with exposure. People finding out about the app and things like that. It's a little more difficult in our area to get the word out there to every person. That's something that I'm working on this year, to just make sure that everybody who comes to Keuka Lake has this app on their phone, and that's what their go-to resource is, to know what to do, where to go, where the events are. So yeah, there's definitely a difference there, but I think that the Keuka Lake area has appreciated this new resource, and I think a lot of people think it's really cool that we have something like that. So I'm proud of that.
Now, what is sort of the first time I was exposed to the Keuka Lake app was not through the app, it was actually through social media. You have built a pretty impressive social media empire, I guess, around this concept, and pictures obviously are a big part of it. People love seeing pictures of the lake and things like that, but talk to us a little bit about how you developed that arm of it, the social media arm of it, while still pushing all of the other aspects of it that you had to still push, the core parts of it.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, if I believe in the app, which is technology-based, I believe in the power of social media as well. And so I really went to social media to help get the word out there. If you type in Keuka Lake in Facebook, the Keuka Lake app is going to pop up. So we have over 2,000 likes on our Facebook page, which means every time I post something, a pretty decent amount of people see it in their feed. So I like to do business shout outs. I like to, people that aren't here love to see what's going on. If it snowed, if the lake's frozen, if it rained 3 inches, anything, they love it.
Right.
So I've really just made sure to keep a good following and make sure that I'm showing people what they want to see. And that's really helped to get the word out there. And we have an Instagram page too, which is directly connected to the Facebook page, and that's really helped too. I really enjoy taking photos and promoting the area, so that's been an actually really fun aspect, time-consuming but very fun aspect of the app for me.
Now it kind of seems like the theme is that you have been trying to build a community. You're building a community essentially. What, as far as that goes, like what is for the people out there who are in their own, not necessarily in the trying to drum up interest in a location, but what would that sort of piece of advice be that you would give to someone else who's looking to sort of enter into the social media world and really trying to make an impact, or entering into the tech world and trying to actually make an impact?
Yeah, I think it's really educating them on the impact that it has. We're in a very on-demand generation. Everybody wants information right away, on tip of your fingers. You don't have to look hard for it. It basically comes to you. So I think just educating people that that's how you get that information and that's how you get it so quickly. And a lot of businesses are starting to utilize social media a little bit more to show what their events are and to say what's going on. So I think people are starting to rely on it, but I think there's a big group out there that still needs to be educated on the power of the internet and social media and apps. The data on apps are huge. It's far surpassed mobile websites, just because of functionality purposes as well. If you go to a mobile website versus an app, it's much easier to, look at a news app than go to, CNN.com, FoxNews.com.
Right.
It's much easier to be in that app. So there's a lot of, a lot of potential for that type of service.
Now, you just made a really good point. The technology is changing and evolving really aggressively, faster than anything has changed before. Is it just a matter, your own personal opinion, people are still trying to catch up, or that the technology is just changing faster than people can actually keep themselves educated while keeping themselves sane?
I think there's actually a lot of people who are almost refusing to jump on the technology train just because it's so time consuming and you do get sucked in. I mean, you can spend hours scrolling through Facebook and never see the same thing. I mean, you're still finding new stuff. So I think there's still people who are like, I don't want to get sucked into that. But I mean, I don't want to say you can get your news on social media because that's not always the best place to get your news. But I mean, you can find out a lot of information right on social media and, get that access so quickly. Whereas, more paper and older forms of putting information out there are kind of slowing down a little bit.
Right. Now, do you think that's part of do you think the slowdown of, say, the traditional newspaper media and that type of thing is sort of paving the way for apps, for social media performance, that kind of thing? I
would like to think so, because that would help me. But again, it's not like there isn't apps out there already. I mean, people in other cities have been doing this for a few years, so they kind of jumped on that train before, obviously, I did. But we're almost ahead of the game with the app, I feel like. I feel like in a few years, that's pretty much going to be what people rely on. Right. So it's kind of nice that we're ahead of the game. I would like to be right on top of it, so, that's pretty much the only resource that people need anymore. Right. But it's just making sure everyone gets on that train together, and we all support each other in all the different forms of advertising and marketing and everything like that.
Now, here's the question. Someone's coming in from out of town. How are they going to, or how, I guess the question is, how do you reach that person who may not know that the Keuka Lake app exists? Is that a concerted effort out of you personally to make sure that those people are made aware of it, or is it just something that, by merit of how popular it is now, or how popular it's become, that it's just sort of second nature within the communities? Yeah, so,
I mean, I hope that people, from the popularity, that's how they kind of find out about it. But I've heard a lot of feedback throughout the past year, and there's a lot of people who tell me the first thing I do when I go to a new place is see if there's an app. And honestly, I will be completely honest, I don't do that. I probably will now, but I wouldn't think to do that before. So there's a group of people who do that. They, look for an app when they go to a new place, which is great because their Keuka Lake App will pop up. There's also a lot of people who search for things on social media. So again, if they type in Keuka Lake on the Facebook page, the app will pop up. That's kind of a learning curve for me, is trying to reach those people that are coming in from out of town. So I've really tried to reach out to all the hotels. I've tried to reach out to bed and breakfasts, vacation rentals, all those type of places. So when people do come to the area, the first thing they find out is, okay, well, now you're here, and this is how you can figure out what you're going to do and where you can go. So they've helped me a lot by, I have little business cards that I give to the B&Bs and the vacation rentals and the hotels. So when guests come in, they can immediately find out about the app. I also have signs on the road and things like that. So when you're driving by in your car and, you take a second away from looking at the lake, you might see a Keuka Lake App sign. And it's also a free download. So, there's not really any reason not to try it. So it's kind of nice. And once people get in there, they spend a lot of time in the app just because there's so much in there. There's so much to offer.
It's
so
like
really
it's a directory. It's a thorough directory. Now, as Yates County, the southern portion of the Finger Lakes specifically, I feel like has really seen tremendous growth in the wine industry. How has that sort of helped you in your first year, and what does that sort of say about what the next few years could look like in terms of just more businesses coming to the area? Yeah,
not even only wineries. Now we have 7-8 breweries around Keuka Lake. We have a distillery, 2 distilleries, and then one's opening soon. So we're going to have 3 distilleries, 8 breweries, and 12, 14 wineries. So I truly believe that the Finger Lakes and Keuka Lake in general is becoming a destination location. There's so many places to have an event, have a wedding, or just to get out of town. It's becoming a place where even in December you can find things to do on a weekend. There's lots of businesses that stay open all year round. It's especially nice for people to visit in the off season to support those businesses who stay open for that purpose. But there's so much to do now with all the new businesses popping up that there's really no reason not to come and try out Keuka Lake.
Now, a big part of what you do is also you're at these events. You're on Keuka Lake. You're actually experiencing it also while you're living it and doing it and working it. Talk to us a little bit about just the time that it takes, the energy that it takes to keep the schedule, to keep going, and to push through and keep making this happen.
Yeah, luckily I'm a very organized person, so that helps. Also, I love going to the events. Not only are they fun, and I see a lot of people, I see a lot of the other business owners, but I'm also supporting the local businesses, which I truly believe in. I didn't want to leave Keuka Lake. I didn't want to leave the Finger Lakes, which is another reason why I really jumped on the idea of the app so I could stay local. And it's been really fun to just meet all the business owners and get to know them and help promote their businesses and help grow their businesses. So it's busy, but if you're enjoying what you're doing, you don't realize that you're busy. It just seems like work and play is kind of mixed together.
Now, what has been, you're a little over a year in now, launched last January, so over a year in now. What was sort of that, when you finished, when you got done and you're sitting at your desk and you're saying, okay, year 1 is in the books. What was that sort of takeaway from that first year, or what was that big thing where you were like, learned this, now I'm going to do it different next year?
Yeah, so communicating with, all the businesses on the app, keeping them up to date.
Right.
It's keeping all the information up to date. That's something that's super important, and I don't think that up-to-date information is really out there. Luckily, the app is up to date, so it is out there now. But I have a hard time finding out when a business is open. And for me to keep that up to date on the app, when that information is not out there, that takes time. It takes, research or a phone call or things like that. So that's time consuming, but it's important. So staying on top of that is something that
I have to ask,
hard.
In that vein, is it not the most frustrating thing in the world when you Google a restaurant or a business or whatever the case may be, and Google gives you some terribly off data that either hasn't been updated in like 3 years, or it just says that the business doesn't exist or it's closed or whatever the case may be. In your doing what you're doing, that has to be like one of your biggest pet peeves ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, the app is supposed to be a solution to that.
Right.
So I'm hoping that people realize that that's not only where you can get all the information, but that's where you can get the accurate, up-to-date information. Because I'm working one-on-one with the businesses, and I'm making sure that it's up-to-date, whereas Google's not really reaching out to you and saying, hey, did you close for the weekdays during the off-season? But I am doing that. So I hope people are noticing that, you know, if you go on and you're looking up restaurants, a lot of them say closed for the season. Luckily, they don't say that they're open still, because a lot of them are. But a lot of them say, you know, Thursday through Saturday from 5 p.m. to close. And that's somewhere where you can go and you can say, okay, this restaurant's open, and you can go to that restaurant and it actually is open.
Right.
So that's, I hope people realize that it really is up-to-date information, and you don't have to second-guess yourself or call or do anything like that. You can trust the app and make decisions from it.
Now, before we get you out of here, what are your expectations at this point for the rest of the year? What is sort of the big things that are on your plate right now that you're thinking about?
Right now, I'm working with all the businesses on the new year. I've seen in February close to 20 new businesses sign up on the app that weren't on last year. So I'm really hoping that in the next few years it becomes inclusive of Keuka Lake. That would be amazing. And, you know, if the following continues and people really, you know, use it, and it just gets stuck in their mind of, okay, I'm going to look up, you know, what the menu is at this restaurant, and they know, you know, their first instinct is to go to the app and not to, you know,
Google.
Try and figure it out on Facebook or Google or look it up in the newspaper or something. I'm hoping that, you know, just becomes the go-to resource for everybody. So.
Now, do you ever sort of, I'm always a little bit amused at the fact that I'll type in a place or a restaurant or a business on Facebook, and I'm always kind of surprised at how many still aren't on Facebook or still aren't on social media. Or it's like they aren't even trying. You talked about that earlier, where some of the business owners don't even have smartphones, but they've engaged with the app. Now, what is that sort of? Do you hope that people start to engage in social media too, because the two kind of do go hand in hand? Is that that push towards tech?
Yeah, I think they definitely go hand in hand, and I think that social media is a very easy way. It's time consuming, but it is an easy way to get a following of people to see things about your business.
Right.
It definitely goes hand in hand with the app. Obviously, the app has links to the website pages and the social media, so people would most likely update their Facebook page more than they would their website.
Right.
It's a lot easier to make a post on Facebook than to log into your website and, you know, do some coding or make a change. And a lot of people have outside people handling their websites. So that's another nice thing about the app is I handle your page. I handle all your information. You don't have to do anything. So it makes it a lot easier for people. So I think that people are jumping on the train of social media. I don't see why you wouldn't. It's pretty much what everyone does now is look at their phone for some purpose. So you have a pretty good chance of them, you know, seeing your information if you're on an app or, you know, on social media.
Well, we really appreciate you coming in today, and I'm sure we'll have you in again as the year goes on to talk a little bit more about what's going on at Keuka Lake.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Well, that's going to do it for us today. We'll be back next week with Finger Lakes Times Executive Editor Mike Cotillo. In the meantime, though, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're checking us out on YouTube. The pod is also available on iTunes, Stitcher, and the FingerLakes1.com app. For Brooke Gordon, I'm Josh Durso, inviting you to join us next time on Inside the FLX.